Hey guys, how's it going? So, this is a video that I've wanted to make for a really long time. This is a video on the Yoyo scoring system as of 2017 world. So yeah, this thing's probably gonna need to be updated. So if you guys are watching this in like 2018, 2019, 2020, you're probably gonna need a refresher. But this is kind of like a general framework of how things work in 2017. So, let's get into it. First things first, if you look at the scoring system, it's divided into two parts, okay? 60-40, alright? 60% is technical execution, and 40% is performance evaluation. The abbreviated terms that Yoyo is kind of throw around as jargon is tech and evals. So considering it's 60% of your score, let's start off with tech first. So, how do you score tech? And the answer I'll give to a complete Yoyo newbie is that they're scored with clickers. So very simply put, you have two clickers, one for positive, one for negative. So the oversimplification is land on a string, 1 point. Miss that string, negative point. So basically your score, or your tech score, is offsetted against the two. So if you got 3 positive and 1 negative, your overall tech score is 2, okay? Now, here's the thing. It's a little bit more complicated than that. So let's go ahead and kind of delve into the definitions of tech. Okay, so if you go ahead and look on the International Yoyo Federation, which has a link down below, the definition of a positive point is you gain points for advanced level trick elements. What does that mean? To be honest, nobody really knows, which is the problem because you get these weird kind of differences in judging. So a good way to kind of demonstrate the disparities in kind of like clicking preferences is if we click like a very simple trick that we all know. So, Ouija bow, right? For those of you who don't know, that's what the trick looks like. Okay? How many would you click? Alright? So, if this was me, right, and you're in the virtual throwdown or something, or basically I'm the judge for the contest, I would give this 3, okay? What's my thinking? Well, 1, a trapeze isn't really like, if you land a trapeze first go, I'll give it 1 point, but I will never click it again. It's such a common element, everyone can do it. Doesn't really warrant a click in my opinion, okay? Second is this. That's pretty difficult, right? And I'd score that 1. And then this hop here to the double or nothing, I'd score that another 1. And hopping directly from the double or nothing to the trapeze, I'd score that another 1. So that's 3, right? Now, there are judges that disagree with me. They'd be like, okay, I'd score it this many points. So they'd be click, click, they'd click for this rotation. So to some judges, this is an element, right? Click, click, and click, all right? So that's 5. Some are even worse than me, and they'd be like, well, hey, 1, 2, but you've already done a trapeze, so I'm not gonna count that again. Which goes into this idea of repeated string elements, which I'll get into in just a second. But as you can see, right, the same trick can be clicked differently depending on the judge. Realistically speaking, right, when you're in a yo-yo competition and you're trying to judge it, players play really, really quickly now. Look at something like this, right? How are you supposed to score something like that with every single string hit? So what they do is they'll only go for big, obvious looking elements. So, maybe 1, right? Maybe 1 more, and this whole thing, right? If you look at it, right, there's 3 string hits. 1, 2, 3, right? But, to anyone who knows how to do this, they'll know it's pretty easy. So what they'll do is they'll score this 1, okay? And then maybe that. There's 2 string hits there, but the whole thing's kind of easy, so maybe they'll score that 1 as well, right? So it really kind of depends on who's the judge and how they're scoring. So what I mean by repeat elements is, okay, if I go and land this, that's 1, right? But then if I go and do it again, it doesn't count anymore. Why? Because I repeated it. If they did allow repeat elements, you'd just be like bang, 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 and you'd just be the person who could hit the string the most times, right? So the idea is they want kind of a diversity and a variation to the trick. So, rule of thumb, repeated elements aren't counted. Pro tip though, this system can be gamed, alright? So, if I do this, right, click, and then I go straight into it again, so click, click. That would be 2 for most judges, right? If I can still do that, which is a different mount, I can do 2.0, which is a different click. So it doesn't mean like, just because I've done a hook, doesn't mean that like hooks don't score anymore. I just have to find a way to vary it up. So that would still click, okay? Now the last thing is misses. So what warrants a miss? Very simply put, if you miss the string, that's a negative. So if I was going for that, but then I ended up doing that and then have to correct it, that's -1. Okay? If I was going for that, but then I miss it and do that, that's -1. Okay? Pretty intuitive. Now, there are also these things called major deductions, and these are like really big, bad, ugly deductions that take a whole lot from your points, but I'm gonna get into those a little bit later. So that's tech, 60% of your score. The other half of the scoring system, which is about 40%, is evals, or your freestyle evaluation. So if tech was like the complexity of your tricks, freestyle evaluation is kind of like how good was your freestyle overall, okay? And there are 8 main points that they go through, and I'm gonna discuss those right now very quickly. What they'll do is they'll get a scoring sheet and they'll mark each of these things, and you'll get a score out of 10. Do really well, you get a 10. Do really, really, really bad, you'll get a 1. So what are the 8 criteria? Criteria number 1, execution. Execution is basically how many tricks you hit. So if you hit a really rock solid freestyle, didn't miss a single thing, you're gonna get a 10 execution score. If you were really bad and missed 100 tricks and missed every single thing, you're gonna get a really bad execution score. The second criteria is control. And this is like how you landed it. So you've landed it, but did you land it cleanly or did you land it poorly? Solid control score. Bad control score, okay? So the next thing is trick diversity. Was there a lot of tricks? Were they different from one another? And were they ordered well? So what that kind of means is if you go and do a freestyle and it's filled with these, like nothing but these speed combos, right? Just the whole thing is like speed combos, one after the other, you're gonna get a really bad trick diversity score because it's all the same. But if you do a speed combo and then you slow down and then you're like, you do some slacks after that, and then you throw in the occasional body combo, and then you throw in, a horizontal combo, then you get a high trick diversity score. Basically, get a lot of tricks, order them nicely, you'll do fine. Okay, space use and emphasis. This is basically how much you dance around on stage. Now, I feel as if a lot of yo-yoers naturally do this because they kind of like want to hype the crowd up. But if you guys want to take a look at like awesome space use, like take a look at Evan Nagal, like that's crazy. Like Gentry Stein's got really good stuff as well. Basically just how much you move around the stage, how flashy you make your stuff look, and like how active you are, like how much you use the environment around you. That's space use. So this is kind of a new thing that I actually didn't know up until the making of this video because I thought I'd probably educate myself. Music use is now split up into 2 kind of areas. So music use 1 is focused primarily on hitting the beat, okay? Are you in sync, right? So like, going back to him, Gentry, right? Every time there's like a beat or a flash or a weird thing or whatever, he'll sync up a trick to that. So it'll be like, boom, 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 okay? He's gonna get a high music use 1 score, okay? The next one is music use 2, which is kind of like an overall mood and feel. So if you guys, the best kind of one I'm trying to think of at the moment is Yamato Murata, right? Now that kid, he kind of has this very dark, angry, throwers kind of vibe, and his music always kind of reflects that. He's always looking down, he's always like throwing really hard, he's always doing really fast tricks, it's always razor sharp, and that's his kind of style, right? So it's got a mood to it, the tricks reflect the theme of the music. Okay, so that's kind of like the difference between the 2. So this is body control, and this is basically how your expressions themselves kind of interact with the crowd. So are you like interacting with them? Are you waving at them? Are your tricks presented in a way that's like looks really clear? It's kind of just body control. Like, do you use your body to the most appealing way possible? And the last one is showmanship. This is what it says in the 2015 edition, and they haven't changed yet, so it's still kind of relevant. How entertaining was the freestyle? Is there like a story or a theme to the freestyle? Is there an effective usage of an outfit? So did he dress up? The first one I'm thinking of is like Hiroyuki Suzuki, like that guy always wears like a really weird ass outfit. And is it a performance that entertained the audience? So that is showmanship, and I think what it boils down to is basically, did you try and make yourself stand out from the crowd? Did you not? And if you did, then you're probably gonna get a good score. But yeah, so those are the 8 evals. So what they'll do is they'll give you a mark out of 10 for each of them, get that, halve it, make it 40, then you get your tech score, then it's crunched together and you get your overall score. 60% tech, 40% evals, boom. Okay, now there's one last thing that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's major deductions. Okay, so now think of it like this. We have your overall score, and what major deductions do is that they subtract away from this overall score. Okay, they don't subtract 40% of the score, they don't subtract 60% of the score, they subtract from the entire score. So these major deductions really, really hurt your score. And there's 4 of them, each kind of like progressively worse than the next. So the first one is a restart. Your yo-yo dies and you basically restart it. As soon as you do that, -1 to your entire score. The next one is a yo-yo discard. So if you're yo-yoing, right, you get a knot, you can't play with this thing anymore, and you go out, you change the yo-yo, you get back into it. For your overall score, you get a -3. If your string breaks and it kind of just hits to the side of the stage and it's like, it's just kind of there and you're like, whoops, didn't intend that, that's still a -5. But if, say, you get an off-string yo-yo, it gets jammed a couple times and you like throw it and it hits the roof of a shopping mall and lands into the audience, that's an automatic disqualification. So those are pretty bad. So the last one, you don't want to do that. That's like game over, pack up your bags, you don't even get a placing. The judges, but they put their clickers down and they don't give you a score and they remove your video off YouTube. So it's not good. Don't do it. So yeah, that is the scoring system in a nutshell. What I described here was a 3-minute routine, okay? For preliminaries, there's a little bit less evaluations. The semifinals, there's less evaluations. For wildcards, there's differences in the minor nuances. But if you know the entire 3-minute freestyle and they just subtract things from there, then you're like, okay, I just don't have to worry about that. So there, I'm not gonna go into like the preliminaries, semifinals, or wildcards. You guys can figure that on your own. Just subtract some of the stuff I said and you'll be sweet. But yeah, that's it. So to summarize, 3 major parts. There's 2 major parts with the last kind of part in the middle if you have a particularly bad day. First one, tech, 60% of your score. Second part, evaluations, 40% of your score. Merge them together. Then the judges will look, did he have any major deductions? If you did, then it's subtracted from your overall score and you kind of just hope that you did enough to place well or to even win. So yeah, that's the yo-yo scoring system. Any comments, questions, and criticisms? And I know a lot of people have criticisms on the system, so yeah, post them down below, and I will see you guys next time.